Thank you very much. Hello, assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Ishan Rahat Qureshi. As introduced, I am the founder and CEO of High Achievers League. Our web address is www.haleague.com. And if you want to shoot an email to us, then our email address is info@haleague.com. Okay, so let's start with the presentation today. So we'll be talking about GRE. So GRE is a test that you need to take if you want to get admission in master's or PhD level in the United States. So how do you do the GRE? GRE is a computer-based test. You have to sit in front of the computer in the test center for around 4 hours to do this exam. The fee in Pakistan for GRE is $205, and the scores are valid for 5 years. On the day of the test, you can send your score report to 4 institutions for free. So this means that when you actually go to the center to take the test, you should know codes of 4 universities or programs where you would like your GRE score to go. But after the test, if you want to send your score report to additional institutions, then for each additional institution, you need to pay $27 for sending the score to each additional institution. And where do you need to send this payment? So please note down a web address that will come in handy to you. It's www.ets.org/GRE. www.ets.org/GRE. So this is the web address of the organization known as Educational Testing Service, or ETS. This is the American organization that manages the GRE exam all over. So when do this test take place? The test takes place from Monday to Thursday every week, all year round. And what you need to do is to go to the ETS website and select the test center and select the test date and get yourself registered. Okay, so let's talk about the test format. The GRE test format involves 3 major sections. The first section is analytical writing, which is also known as the essay writing section. Here you're going to see 2 separately timed writing tasks. One of the tasks is to write an essay, which is known as analysis of an issue. For this essay, you will have 30 minutes to type this essay. And the other essay is called analysis of an argument. Again, for this essay, you are going to have 30 minutes to type this essay as well. So after you're done with this section, then you will start getting the verbal and the quant sections one by one, alternately. So if you get the math section first, then you're going to get the English section, then math section, then English section. Or if you get the verbal section first, then you will get a math section after that, then verbal, and then math. So we call the English section the verbal reasoning section, and the math section is called quantitative reasoning section. So you will be getting 4 total sections, 2 of verbal reasoning and 2 of quantitative reasoning. So for each verbal reasoning section, you will have approximately 20 questions per section, and the time would be 30 minutes per section. And for the quantitative reasoning section, again, you will have approximately 20 questions per section, and the time that you will get will be 35 minutes per section. Okay, sometimes what ETS does is they give you an extra section. It may be a verbal section or it may be a quant section. You as a test taker will not know which of these sections will not be scored. So what happens is when you get 5 sections, 1 section out of those 5 will not be scored. But you as a test taker will not know which section will not be scored. So that section is for ETS's internal research purposes. So what you need to do here is that whether you get 4 sections or 5 sections, please don't worry about it. Just do each question and each section as it would be scored. So no worries, you get 4 sections, you get 5 sections, just do your best in each section. All right, sometimes what ETS does is they may give an identified research section that is not scored. It may be included, so it's not necessary it will be included, but it may be included. And it always comes, if it comes, at the end of the test. So again, if you get this kind of section, the number of questions may vary, time may vary, but it will always come at the end. It will be an identified research section. You will know that it wouldn't be scored, so don't worry about it again. just relax and do this section. So I hope you understand the format of GRE. So let's talk about quantitative reasoning. So as we discussed, there are two sections of quantitative reasoning, and you have 20 questions and 35 minutes for each section. Now the score range for quant is between 130 to 170 in increments of 1 point. This means that you can either get a 132, a 140, a 145. So you won't be getting a score in points, like you won't be getting a 132.2 or a 144.4. So you will get integer marks, you will get marks in increments of 1 point, and the quant reasoning score starts from 130. So this means that if you even do not score any question correctly, you will still get a 130. Okay, and the max that you can get in quant is 170. So what is required of you to know to do well on this exam? So you need to understand the basic concepts of arithmetic, algebra, geometry, and data analysis. So this is the same kind of math that you either did in your inter or in your A levels. Even it's, simpler than that. It does not have trigonometry. It does not have derivative. And what does data analysis mean? Data analysis means you will be given charts and graphs, and you need to um, interpret those. So there will be multiple choice questions that you will be attempting for all this. So there are actually four kinds of questions that you will get in GRE Quant. So all questions will not be MCQs actually. So the first kind of question can be quantitative reasoning, quantitative comparison. So in quantitative comparison, two quantities will be given to you and you have to compare the two quantities. We will be looking at some samples for this. Then you have MCQs in which there is one correct answer. Then you have MCQs in which there can be more than one correct answer. And then you have numeric entry questions. In numeric entry questions, you'll be given a box and you have to type the correct answer inside the box. So you won't be having MCQs in numeric entry kind of questions. Okay, so let's just look at an example here. So this is a MCQ in which there is one correct answer. So select a single answer choice. If 5x plus 32 equals 4 minus 2x, what is the value of x? I'm sure you can do that. So you take x on the left side and you take the quantities on the right side. So the left side will become 5x plus 2x, which is 7x. And the right side would become 4 minus 32, which is minus 28. So on one side, we have 7x, which equals minus 28. So x will equal minus 4. So the correct answer here is C. All right, another sample in which you have to select two correct answer choices. So here they say, which two of the following numbers have a product that is greater than 60? So we have four options. So you will be given scratch papers there in the test center that you can use for your rough work. Always try to use tips and strategies and shortcuts wherever you can. Try to save your time because GRE is a time management test in which you need to manage your time and there will definitely be time pressure on you. So try to save your time. So when we see a question like this, we should immediately, we should be able to point out that either the two answers are going to be A and B. That's because when we multiply two negative numbers, we get a positive number. Or the answer can be C and D. So the answer won't be C and D. That's because 6 into 8 is 48. And we need a product of two numbers here whose product's result is greater than plus 60. So minus 9 multiplied by minus 7 gives us plus 63. So we are going to select what? A and B here. Okay, let's move on. So now this is a numeric entry question in which you have to type the correct answer inside the boxes. So it says rectangle R has length 30 and width 10 and square S has length 5. The perimeter of S is what fraction of the perimeter of R? Now, when it says the perimeter of S is what fraction of the perimeter of R, this means that we are going to keep the perimeter of S in the numerator and the perimeter of R in the denominator. So what is perimeter? Perimeter is the sum of all the boundaries of a figure. we know that all sides of a square are equal. So if one side of a square is 5, then what will be its perimeter? 5 multiplied by 4, which should give us what? 20. So we can type 20 in the numerator box. Then let's look at the rectangle. Now, for a rectangle, we know that the opposite sides are equal and parallel. So if two sides of a rectangle are 30 and 10, then the other two sides need to be 30 and 10 as well. So what will be the perimeter of the rectangle? 30 plus 10 plus 30 plus 10, which is going to be 80. So if you type 20 by 80, it's fine. If you type 2 by 8, it's fine. If you type 1 by 4, it's okay. The answer is correct. All right, let's look at the other question. There are twice as many girls as boys in an English class. If 30% of the girls and 45% of the boys have already submitted their homework, what percent of students have not submitted their homework? Okay, whenever we get questions in terms of percentages, it's always safe to plug in a value of 100. That's because that would make our calculations easier. So let's say the number of boys is 100. Then what will be the number of girls? It will be 200. That's because girls are twice than boys. So how many boys did their homework? 45 boys did their homework. So 45% of 100 is 45. And how many girls did their homework? 30% of the girls did their homework. So 30% of 200 is what? 60. So 60 plus 45 gives us 105. This means 105 students completed their homework or submitted their homework. But remember, we always need to look at the question very carefully. So the question says, what percent of students have not submitted the homework yet? Okay, so out of 300, if 105 students submitted their homework, so how many of them did not submit their homework? 300 minus 105, which gives us 195. So now we know that 195 students did not submit their homework. The question asks us to find the answer as a percent. So 195 divided by 300 multiplied by 100 should give us the answer, which will be 65%. So this is one way that we could do this question, and I hope you got what I wanted to explain. Okay, now this is quantitative comparison question in which you need to compare the two quantities. Now, before we look at this question, please note down when you need to select one of the four choices given. So in a quantitative reasoning question, or in a quantitative comparison question, you are always given four answer choices: A, B, C, and D. So if answer choice A, if quantity A is bigger than quantity B, you always select answer choice A. If quantity B is bigger than quantity A, then you select answer choice B. If the two quantities are equal, you select answer choice C. And if the relationship cannot be determined from the information given, then you select answer choice D. So let's look at this question. Quantity A is 23% of 43 and quantity B is 43% of 23. So before you rush to solve this question, always look at it a bit carefully. So you don't even need to solve this question. If you look at it closely, you will find that the numerator in both these quantities is 23 into 43. And the denominator in both the quantities is 100. So in a sense, both these quantities they are essentially equal. We don't even need to make a calculation here. So as I mentioned, wherever we can save time, we should. So whenever we get a question like this, in which there are two quantities and the percentage sign switches, we can safely select answer choice C. Let's move ahead. Okay, now sometimes this may happen that you are given a statement at the top and then there is quantity A and quantity B. So here we are given x square equals 25. Quantity A is x and quantity B is 25 square root. So the reason why we have given this sample to you is that sometimes a question that may seem to be an easy question, it may actually not be that easy. There may be a trick involved. Like in this question, there is a trick involved. So when I go to different universities all over Pakistan, I have seen that students have the tendency to just say, to say out aloud that the correct answer is C. That's because they think if x squared is 25, then x is 5, and the square root of 25 is 5. So they're equal. So if we look at it carefully, if x squared equals 25, then x should equal plus minus 5, not just plus 5. And the trick in quantity B is that there's a mathematical rule. Whenever you see a quantity under the radical sign, always take the positive. So the answer for quantity B, 25 square root, will be plus 5. And for quantity A, we have already determined it's plus minus 5. So can we compare plus minus 5 with plus 5? Not really. That's because when we take quantity A is plus 5 and quantity B is already plus 5, so it seems like as if both are equal. When we take quantity A as minus 5, then it seems like as if quantity B is bigger. So since we are not getting a definite answer, we are going to select answer choice D. The relationship cannot be determined. All right, so this is a sample from data analysis. I told you that you will get some questions where you'll be given questions from, you'll be given graphs and tables and charts. So these questions will be in minority, but you will get those questions. So let's look at this. According to the graph, which of the following could be the number of refurbished yachts sold in 1996? Now let's look at the legend and the title that we have. New and refurbished yacht sales of company J 1994 to 2004 and median sale price for selected years. So the first chart, the chart at the top, this one tells us the sales of the company J. And this bottom chart tells us the median sale price. But what do we need to look at? We need to look at the sales. Okay, so we are going to look at the top chart. And which curve are we going to look at? The top curve with circles or the bottom curve in this chart with squares? So it says which of the following could be the number of refurbished yachts sold in 96. So if we look at the legend, then squares, the curve with the squares is the one that we are going to look at. And which is the year? It's 1996. So if we follow 1996 and we look at it through the y-axis, it's a bit less than 6, but the y-axis says these numbers are in thousands. So our answer should be a little less than 6,000. So do we find an answer choice here that is a little less than 6,000? Of course, it's answer choice B. So we will select answer choice B, 5,900 for this kind of question. Okay. Okay, great. So let's move on to this final example again. Now, this is from geometry and quantity comparison. So let's look at the question. In square ABCE, excuse me, AB is 4 and quantity A is 24. Quantity B is the perimeter of the polygon A, B, C, D, E. So we discussed it earlier that perimeter is the sum of the outer boundaries. So we need to find out the perimeter of this polygon. What is given to us in square ABCE? AB is 4. So we know that all sides of a square are equal. So if AB is 4, BC will be 4, AE will be 4, and CE will also be 4. But CE also happens to be a side of an equilateral triangle. So this means CE is 4, ED is 4, CD is 4. So now do we have all sides to find the perimeter? Okay, one mistake that students make in this question is that they add CE in perimeter as well. CE will not be added in the perimeter since this is not the outer boundary. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 sides, 5 multiplied by 4 because each side is 4. So this gives us an answer of 20. So quantity A is 24, quantity B is 20. Which is bigger? Quantity A. So our answer is going to be A, since quantity A is bigger. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the verbal section. Okay, like the quant section, the verbal section also has scoring between 130 to 170 in increments of 1 point. So this is why the maximum that you can get in GRE is 170 plus 170, which is 340. And the minimum that you can get is 130 plus 130, which is 260. Okay, the analytical writing section in which you have to type 2 essays. So the composite score of the 2 essays you get is 0, between 0 to 6, 0 being the worst and 6 being the best. And you get this score in increments of 0.5. So this means you can get a 1 or a 2 or a 2.5, a 3 or a 3.5. So your analytical writing score is separate from your total GRE score and from your verbal and quant score. So these are the 3 types of questions that you're going to see in reading comprehension, in verbal reasoning, I'm sorry. Reading comprehension, text completion, and sentence equivalence. In text completion, you will have either 1 blank or 2 blanks or 3 blanks. There is no partial credit. This means that if you have 2 blanks, you have to give the correct answer for the 2 blanks. If you have 3 blanks, you need to give the correct answer for all 3 blanks. If you give the correct answer, let's say of 2 blanks, and your answer for 1 blank is wrong, then you will not get any credit for that. Let's look at a question here. Just as different people can have very different personalities, so too can pets. Even those of the same species and breed possess varied dash. So a technique that we generally tell students is to not to look at the answers. So when you get a question like this, please, in your own words, think about a word that you think should go in there. So in a sense, what this sentence is saying is that just as people have different personalities, even pets of the same species or breed can also have different personalities. So we are looking for a word that is closer to personalities here. So these are the options that we have: initiations, implementations, aptitudes, rationalizations, and temperaments. So always use the process of elimination. We also call it POE. Process of elimination is when you eliminate the wrong answer choices to arrive at the correct answer choice. This gives you a better chance to pick up the correct answer, since your probability to select the correct answer goes up when you eliminate wrong answer choices. So let's look at them one by one. Initiation. Can the answer be initiation? No, you can eliminate that. That's because we decided that we are going to have a word here which resembles personalities. Can we have implementation? No, because implementation means to start something. Aptitude? Maybe. Let's keep it there. Rationalizations. So rationalization means to talk sense, to have a logical thought process or conversation. So we can eliminate D as well. And temperaments means, again, personalities. So temperaments and aptitudes, if we have to select one of those, which one do you think is closer to personalities? If you said temperaments, that is absolutely correct. That's because temperaments is closer to the word personalities. Aptitudes is more related to skillfulness, and because in the blank we had to choose a word which is closer to personalities, so temperaments is a better answer. So answer choice E is correct. Okay, so when you're doing text completion or sentence equivalence, there are 3 things that you should keep an eye on. The first thing is clue. What is a clue? Clue is a word or group of words that point to the best answer choice. For instance, we have an example here that says, now known as Administrative Professionals Day, Secretary's Day was created in 1952 by Harry F. Klemfus, a public relations professional, dash the value and significance of administrative assistants in order to attract more women to the profession. All right, so what are the clues here? So Harry F. Klemfus is the person who started this day, the Administrative Professionals Day. When do you start a day? So days like Mother's Day and Father's Day, you start these days when you think highly of something, of a profession or of a relationship. So this is a clue that Harry F. Klemfus think highly of this profession. And Harry F. Klemfus was himself from this field, from the public relations field. And in the end, it says he wanted to attract more women to the profession. So this means the kind of a word that should come here may be who understood the value or who acknowledged the value and significance of administrative assistance. So the first thing that you need to keep an eye on is the clue. All right, here are the answer choices. And for your convenience, I've given answers to the choices as well. So if we look at the blank, which answer choice do you think should go here? So if you selected answer choice B, which is touted, you're absolutely correct, because he definitely promoted the value and significance of administrative assistance. All other answer choices here do not match, so we can eliminate them. All right, so besides the clue, you should also look at the tone of the blank and the sentence to see whether it's positive or negative. A wind chill warning is issued when the temperature is projected to reach minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, the point at which the cold has dash effects on living creatures. So if you look at the tone of the sentence, it's mostly negative, and the kind of temperature, which is in minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, this would definitely have devastating effects on living creatures. So a kind of a negative answer, a negative word is going to go there. It can be lethal effects on living creatures, negative effects on living creatures, adverse effects on living creatures, dangerous effects on living creatures, anything like that. So we talked about the clue, we talked about the tone, and the last thing is trigger words. So when you are doing text completion and sentence sequence, please also keep an eye on the trigger words. What are trigger words? These words indicate whether the blank should follow the clue or should go in the opposite direction. Let's look at an example. While it is generally assumed that drinking alcohol is detrimental to one's health, many studies have shown the dash effects of having a glass or two of wine daily. Okay, so in the first sentence, the direction is towards the fact that drinking is detrimental to one's health. But this trigger word, while, shows that the second part of the sentence will not follow the first part. So in the second part, it says many studies have shown the dash effects of having a glass or two of wine daily. So this means studies have shown positive effects of having a glass of, okay. So this was the trigger word. This was very important for us to concentrate on this so that we know that the second part of the sentence will be changing here. So what are the three things that I talked about? It's the clue, the tone, and the trigger words. Okay, so for sentences that have 2 or 3 blanks, you need to complete the blanks one by one. So you can, for instance, you can fill up blank number 2 before blank number 1. It's a good choice to pick the easier ones first, those that you know are correct. We talked about the third point, find the clue, look for trigger words, and come up with a word that you can, in your own words, that you can put in the blank, and use process of elimination. Look if the blanks complement each other or go in the opposite directions. Okay, so before I start sentence equivalence, let me tell you that sentence equivalence is very similar to text completion, but there are some differences. The first thing is that in sentence equivalence, you will always get one blank. For each blank, there will be 6 answer choices, and you have to select 2 answer choices now in such a way that when you put in any of those 2 answer choices in the blank, the meaning of the sentence should not change. They may or may not be exact synonyms, the 2 words that you select, but the meaning of the sentence should not change. So now we have this example, and we are going to select a word that we are going to select 2 words, in fact, here, that do not alter the meaning of the sentence. The cohesion of Alexander the Great's vast empire was dash. At his death, Alexander's lands were divided among his generals. Okay, so in this example, what was the cohesion like? If Alexander's lands were divided among his generals, so this means cohesion or the bonding of the empire was not good. So we know what kind of a word we are looking at here. Something that tells us the cohesion was not good. So these are the answer choices, and I've given the answers to you. So please know that for text completion and for sentence equivalence, you will need to build a vocabulary, and vocabulary is not built in one day. So it may take you 1.5 months to build vocabulary. So please, those people who are planning on taking the GRE and applying this year for the classes that start next year, please start building your vocabulary. Okay, so what's the answer here? If you selected the two answers as B, precarious, and F, tenuous, you're absolutely correct, because we were looking for a word that tells us the cohesion was not strong. So B and F are the answers. Okay, another sample. Despite their outward negativity, many a cynic harbors an inner faith in the dash of mankind. So the trigger word here is despite. So despite the outward negativity that the critiques had on humankind, they still had an inner dash, inner faith in the dash of mankind. So this means that the trigger word despite tells us that although from the outward appearance, the critiques of humankind, they are negative, but from inside, they have something positive for mankind. So we are looking for a positive word here. So these are the words, and here are the meanings for them. So as I mentioned, we are looking for a positive word. If you select benevolence, which is disposition to do good, and probity, which is goodness and honesty, you are correct. These two are the answer choices. All other words can be eliminated. They don't make sense here. All right. So let's do some reading comprehension. In reading comprehension, there are passages that you will receive. Some passages will be small in size, some will be medium in size, and some will be really big ones. So in smaller passages, you may have one or two paragraphs. In medium sized, you may have 3 or 4, and in large passages, you may have 4 or 5 paragraphs. The topics can come from anywhere. It can be from astronomy, it can be from economics, it can be from business. Doesn't matter. You don't need to have prior knowledge of the topic given to you. You have to answer the questions according to what is stated or implied in the passage. Question types. There are 3 kinds of questions. MCQs, so multiple choice questions, in which there is one correct answer, then MCQs, in which there can be more than one correct answer, and select in-passage questions. Now, in select in-passage questions, you won't be given multiple answer choices, but you have to go back in the passage and click on a sentence that you think is the correct answer. That sentence gets highlighted, and that becomes your answer. Okay, so we did talk about this. You will be having passages, 1 to 5 paragraphs. After each passage, you will have questions that will ask questions about that passage, and you may have between 1 to 5 questions. Focus is less on vocabulary in this section and more on your reading skills. So another technique that I need to tell you here is that if you try to read the whole of the passage, you may run out of time. So one technique that we tell students is that for each paragraph, read the first 3 to 4 lines carefully and then skim through the rest of the paragraph. Know the main idea of each paragraph. Then in the second paragraph, do the same. Read the first 3 4 lines and skim through the rest. And in the last paragraph, look for conclusion. So you do not need to retain or remember all the details in the passage. What you need to do is that when you read a question, you should know which para you should go to find the answer. So if you go this way and practice a lot, you will be able to do well in reading comprehension. Okay, so we have an excerpt here from a passage. I'm not going to read all of it, but just the first 3 4 lines, and then let's see what's the main idea, what's the structure, and what's the tone. Little is known about the elusive section of the Earth's atmosphere known as the mesosphere. Located between the stratosphere, the maximum altitude that airplanes can achieve, and the thermosphere, the minimum altitude of spacecraft, mesosphere is poorly understood. Okay, so if I've just read through this, so what's the main idea? The main idea is that they're talking about an atmospheric phenomenon. They're talking about an atmospheric layer, mesosphere, what's above that layer, what's below that layer. If I skim through the rest, and if you try to skim through the rest, they are talking about waves, how there is dissipation of waves, what happens, how these wave patterns are formed, and what happens when these waves collide with the meteorites. So you know that when they talk about conflagration or fire, you have to come in this passage. When they talk about the layer mesosphere or the upper and lower layers, you have to come to this uh, para. So we know the main idea, the structure. There can be three kinds of structures. There can be an explanatory structure, there can be an evaluative structure in which two or three things are being evaluated, or there may be an argument. So in this kind of a para, uh, we have an expository or explanatory structure. And what's the tone? I would say the tone is neither negative nor positive. It's a neutral tone because environmental phenomena, an environmental phenomenon is being explained. Okay, so let's look at another excerpt. So this one says, or consider McMurtry's treatment of character. The traditional Western formula depicts mainly masculine characters and portrays them as both heroic and human. In his novels, McMurtry creates strong female characters. So what's the main idea? They're talking about a writer whose name is McMurtry. And what have McMurtry done different from the traditional novelists? He has shown women to be the main characters and heroes of his novels. So this is the main idea. And if we skim through the rest, then in the rest of the para, they're talking about how critics talk about his writing style. So this means that if we have a question about critics, we know we have to come here. If there's a question on how McMurtry treats women or gender in general, we have to come here. So the question says, select the sentence that shows the author's view of McMurtry's treatment of gender. Now, this kind of question, we do not have any answer choices here. So this means this is select in passage question. So which line do you think we are going to select here? Select the sentence that shows the author's view of McMurtry's treatment of gender. So line number 3 that says, in his novels, McMurtry creates strong female characters. This is the sentence that we should choose, because here here the author tells us how McMurtry creates gender. So you will select this sentence, it will get highlighted, and this will be your answer. And then you will. All right, so this is mainly what I wanted to talk about in this presentation. I hope you must have learned something from this. And again, our web address is www.haleague.com and the email address is info@haleague.com. We also have 6 weeks GRE course, which is online. So you can come in contact with me if you are interested in that. Besides that, one final point about the essays. So as I mentioned, there are 2 essays that you need to type. So we'll talk about the essays in detail at some later point, but just to tell you the main point of the 2 essays. The first essay, analysis of an issue. In that essay, some statements will be given to you and you have to take a position in favor or against those statements. And in the other essay, analysis of an argument, you will be given an argument and you have to critique on that argument. So do go on the ETS website, www.ets.org/GRE. You will find a lot of examples of these essays here. So with that, I thank you and my host a lot for having me and for this presentation. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.